In this video, I'm going to bring you up to speed on my Warhammer Quest projects that I've been working on. First, I'm still making boards for Little Monk, and I have changed how I'm making my boards with some new product that I found that I think works a lot better. I'm going to talk about all the cards that I made for the core set, and also show off this little GM screen that I made to help me play the game. So let's get into this. Welcome to Solitary RPG. So if you watched my earlier videos, I did a pretty in-depth video on how I'm making my game boards for Warhammer Quest 1995 and how I'm using a 2mm thick piece of cardboard to make these boards, and I'm covering them with a plastic, and for me they're working out beautifully. However, I was asked by Little Monk to make him all of the boards for the Adventure 3 update that recently came out. And I have been busily making boards and tons of boards and done quite a bit. And, anyways, in the process, I discovered the 2mm thick boards that I was using they don't fit the doors. So the clips on the bottom of the doors or the thicker board doesn't work. So I contacted Little Monk, advised him of the problem, and he said, well, do whatever you think is right. So I went out and I remade all the boards that required doors to be attached in order to continue playing the game. And I'm just using a thinner board. It's about 1.5 millimeters thick. After I put my prints on it, my bottoms on it, and wrapped it in plastic, the doors fit beautifully. So that is what I'm doing now. And the ones that I've duplicated, I'll just send them both to Little Monk, and he can decide which ones he wants to use. The bigger objective rooms, I'm not going to redo at this point because they're objective rooms, and they're going to be at the end of the journey, so they don't necessarily need to have the door clipped because that's the end of the game. But here's a lot of the objective rooms that I've made, and I think they are turning out fantastic. However, I'm using a new product to cover these boards. I needed to get some more, and I was over at Michael's, and I found this self-seal laminate roll from Scotch. And basically what this is a big roll of box tape. You know, the clear box tape you use for sending packages, that really hard plastic, you put it on and it's sometimes a pain to work with. That's what this is. So they basically took a roll of box tape, made it 16 inches wide, and said laminate stuff with it. And that's what this is now. It's a lot harder to work with because if you don't get it flat and you get little wrinkles like this, just like box tape, it wrinkles and it's hard to get it out. So on a few of these boards, I have a few wrinkles like this. And when I send them to Little Monk, if he's like, yeah, I can't, I need you to redo it, I'll just redo the boards. It's not that big of a deal for me. That's really just a preference. I don't think it takes away anything from the looks of the board, but everybody has their own preferences, and I don't mind remaking them if I have to. But it's also a lot shinier. So the stuff I was using before was a little dull, but now this looks glossy. So this looks more like the actual game boards, and I love it. So I pretty much have the adventure set done, and I am now moving on to doing the Dwarven Mines for him. And I've got a few pieces done, and the whole project should be done. I'm hoping by the end of next week I should have them all done. I've been making a lot of boards, and it's been consuming quite a bit of time. However, I'm under a little bit of a time crunch myself because I'm starting a second job on my days off, and it's going to basically consume my Fridays. So I want to try to have this all done before I start this second job. And so that's why I'm working so diligently with it. Now, I've also had to do these little side pieces. So if you're not familiar with Ultimate Adventure 3 on all the boards, there's all these little side pieces. And this piece was really a treat to try to wrap because it's rounded. And if you've ever tried to wrap anything in any kind of tape and it's rounded, you got to make a bunch of cuts. And I didn't quite get it right, but my options were very limited. One would have been to leave it square, and then you could have just taped it up and it would have been fine. But however, this goes on this board, and it's part of the board, and I didn't want to do that. So I just did my best to wrap it and cut it and make it work. Hopefully Little Monk's okay with it. If not, we can discuss options on what we can do to try to tape this. It may be just don't tape it, just print it, and he can just be gentle with it when using it on the board. But we will figure that out when we get to that part. So that's where I'm at with boards. Lots of work, but yeah, this new product, so much better. And this it's a lot more expensive. I'll tell you that right now. This roll on Amazon is like $18.99, and when I bought it at Michael's, it was like $22 for the roll. And it's not nearly as long as the other stuff I was using or as wide. And now onto the cards. So my last video, we talked about cards. Here's all my cards. And this is how I'm going to keep them in a box like this. So when you first start playing, you're going to set up your dungeon, and you got your dungeon cards. And then once you've set up, you can move the dungeon cards to the back of this box, pushing forward the event cards and the treasure cards. And then when you need to pull a card, you just reach in and pull it out of the box. You don't really need to shuffle them. You can just randomly pull them out. And the reason I do this with the cards is because they're sleek. My cards are super thin because they're just paper. And stacking them, they slide over. They don't stay stacked very well. So I just put them in the little tray like this. And when I need them, I just randomly pull them out. You can go in order if you want. You don't have to. But those are my cards, and I cut all the corners round and put them in sleeves, and life is good. So currently I have my event cards, I have my treasure cards, I have all my dungeon cards, and then I did the cool little like player aid cards, which was kind of cool. And so that's all done. This is all the core set stuff. I haven't even touched any of the treasure packs or any of the other cards that are out there for the game. I'm just trying to get the core set done, and that's what I'm working on. And because this has a lid on it, I can use the lid as a discard pile. And then here's a little the key, and I put that on cardstock and just glued it down. I didn't do anything to it yet. I don't know. I probably won't. I'll probably just leave this unprotected because it's not going to really be handled that much. So yeah, that's basically where I'm at with my cards. And then the other fun thing I completed recently was a cool Game Master's Guide or Player's Guide. So this sheet is available online, and I'll put a link in the description below. Off the top of my head, I don't remember who makes this, but I'm pretty sure I got it either off a Little Monk's website or one of the other 100 websites I looked at for information. But it prints out as an 8.5 by 11 normally, and it was super small print, and it was hard for me to read. So what I did is I opened it up through Adobe, and I went to print it as a poster, and I enlarged it to the point to where it just was on 2 pages, printed it out, cut it out, and then I made basically this is how you would make a hardback book cover. And I just made a hardback book cover and glued these where I would have glued the end pages in for a hardback book. And that's going to have my information. And it's just basically the sequence of play for setup and the warrior phase and exploration phase and all the different phases that you go through. It's just kind of broken down into this. It's supposed to be broken down into 1 page. I just made it a little bit bigger, and so I could read it with my old eyes and my glasses. Have to get my old bifocals out, and now I can actually read what's on here easily. And then when I'm not using it, it's just going to be a little folder to hold all my character sheets or any pages that I print out for maybe some fan made adventures, whatever. It's like a little folder, but I thought it was fun. It was a nice little reward for all the work that I've been doing on the boards. I needed to take a little bit of a break, so I made this. So, anyways, that's where I'm at with everything with the Warhammer Quest project that I'm working on. And as soon as I get all the boards done, which I'm, like I said, I'm hoping to have them all done by next week, I'm going to start working on binding the books. I want to start with the rule book and the adventure book, and then I want to move into all of the little character books for the little small pamphlet type books. I want to get all that stuff made up. And Little Monk is currently updating a lot of the character cards or the warrior cards. So I'm going to wait till he gets that published again, get all those cards published again before I start making all my character cards. So far, everything he's doing on those is looking fantastic. So I can't wait to get to that. But until then, I still got a lot of other stuff I need to do for this game to get it on the table. But right now, my big thing is getting these boards done. So that's an update. Thank you very much for watching and have a great day. Bye.